See that? Now that was a battle.
If you've seen my Metal Gear Solid bosses list, and if you haven't, why not? Anyway, the Metal Gear Solid series has a lot of good bosses, and the predictable thing to do would be to put Psycho Mantis or at a push the End on this list. But no, I'm not a predictable person. Instead, I'm putting the Shagohod on this list, because there's just so much to talk about. Seeing the Shagohod smash through Groznygrad to start the fight is incredible, and it sets up a very special fight. If there was ever a fight to be called epic, this is it, and I'm not even joking. Everything explodes, you crash into things, the Shagohod smashes things up, there are cutscenes in between sections, and each section, driving, sniping, running, shooting, lightning, screaming, this fight has everything. And frankly, when you're fighting a nuclear tank, it should.
See that? Now that was a battle.
Should I just play the music and leave it at that? Yeah, that's a good idea. Yep, I could have gone for Captain Vladimir or Alice Twilight, but any fight could be made better by this sort of music. Margaret Moonlight was one of the first fights in the game to go against the flat-out aggressive nature of No More Heroes. Some bosses like Holly Summers and even Bad Girl from the original managed to portray the feeling of remorse in this series. Margaret Moonlight is a great character who insults Travis in song. Her theme tune, Philistine, is all about how Travis has become anything but a hero. That is pretty powerful, especially considering the fact that most of the other assassins before Margaret are only concerned with fighting and killing their opponent. I found the fight to be pretty easy, even on bitter mode, but that's not what the fight is about. I'm a big fan of atmosphere in a boss fight, and the setting of a moonlit rooftop after killing dozens and dozens of enemies enhances the fight by a big margin. Margaret attacks with her Grim Reaper style scythes and her awesome scythe rifles all the time while Philistine plays in the background. And of course, the fight is finished with one of the many great No More Heroes quotes.
Riveting melody, isn't it?
Catchy as hell. See that? Now that was a battle.
Something came up on the Chaos Theatre forum about not liking it when games present the main villain as someone who isn't the final boss. I strongly disagree with this, as often the developers end up putting a lot of effort into this fight to fit with a momentous occasion. One of the best examples of this is Twilight Princess. Throughout the game, Zant is thought to be the main villain, and the badass one at that. But then, when you meet him in the Palace of Twilight,
You're really weird.
So not only is he not the final boss, but his persona is drastically altered to something more resembling Kefka. And, as is often so the case with these sort of bosses, the fight is ridiculous. The fight is split up into 6 stages, each one resembling a previous boss or mini-boss in the game. The music even changes with each stage, with each of the bosses or mini-bosses' theme given a crazy remix. The final stage takes place outside Hyrule Town, and Zant goes absolutely mental. He throws everything at you, including these teleporting spinny sword things, which strongly resemble Jasper Jr.'s teleporting punches from No More Heroes 2. In the end, Zant lets out one final bit of craziness as the Mentalist is finally defeated.
See that? Now that was a battle.
No boss list is complete without a boss from Shadow of the Colossus. Pretty much all of the bosses from the game are works of art, and are so much fun to fight. This means that it was very hard for me to choose one from the game to put in the list, which is why I didn't. Instead it's a tie, between the epic and the frantic, the obvious and the slightly obscure, between Phalanx and Dirge. First of all, Phalanx. It's huge, it's cinematic, it's just incredible. The fight incorporates every aspect of Shadow Colossus into it. Horse riding, archery, climbing. It's an awesome challenge for the player. It embodies everything that is good in Shadow of the Colossus. Dirge, meanwhile, is very different. Dirge is fast, and you therefore have to ride aggro away from it in order to escape it. And then its eyes, its soul-piercing eyes. So why do I like this fight? Dirge scares me, that's why. The amount of adrenaline that courses through my veins every time I fight this guy is unmatched. Dirge is seriously strong, and therefore running away from him is the top of your priorities. While I love Phalanx due to how spectacular the fight is, Dirge is on here as well, more for the sheer fear it evokes. So we've finally reached number 1, my favourite boss in video games. But before we turn that final corner, it's time we look back on this list and recap. Number 10, King Caliente. Number 9, the Hydra. Number 8, he's so cool. Number 7, the Red Eye King. Number 6, yeah. Number 5, the Shagohod. Number 4, Margaret Moonlight. Number 3, what the hell? And number 2, Phalanx and Dirge.
See that? Now that was a battle.
Right, I'm fully aware that this may be a boss that you don't agree with, and that's fine. It's also from this game. So this should be interesting. There's something about myths and rituals that I find intriguing and interesting, and no other ritual in Okami gets more coverage than the events surrounding Yamato no Orochi. At the beginning of the game, you see someone who is later revealed to be Susanoo, accidentally resurrected. To satisfy the beast's desires, the fair maiden of Kamiki village, Kushi, must be offered to Orochi as a sacrifice. However, the great sun god Amaterasu and her celestial envoy Isun plan to use Kushi as a way of getting into the moon cave and slaying Orochi once and for all. The music that plays while Kushi is transported to the moon cave is brilliant and one of my favourite from any video game. It sums up the situation perfectly. It's glorious, but it's strangled by desperation and sorrow. Absolutely brilliant. Once you finally reach Orochi, the fight begins. I'll admit that the fight is very repetitive and is constantly interrupted by cutscenes, but I really don't care, not one bit. In a fight where you get a giant 8-headed serpent drunk, a little bit of repetition doesn't bother me that much. This fight has everything. Amazing cinematics, awesome atmosphere, sensational music, even some humour thrown in there for good measure. It may not be the best fight in the world, or even the best fight in the game, but this fight is set up like a final boss fight, and it really shows. This has been Rabbidluigi, and remember that this is my opinion. My opinion!